There was no desert today. No, no desert today. I'm a little disappointed. More than a little. It seems like my average has gone down quite a bit. It used to be that I would fail on an adventure about 50% of the time. In Japan, I think it was about 50%. When I came back to America and I was on my own, that number improved to probably around 75%. 75% success rate. Only 25% or less of the time I would actually not make it to the desert. Since my family joined me, it's back again about the 50% mark. For about a year for the last year, I haven't even been going. Coincided with my new job. But before that, I think I was even less. Although I had a streak there for a while where I was going pretty well. Now I don't even go. Now I abandon the idea even before I get going. And I think that might be two things. It might be that I'm done out there. Yeah. The awkward silence is from the uncertainty of, well, it's more like a certainty. I'm pretty confident that I am done with the desert, but I'm not ready to give it up. It's like going on a nice holiday and having 2 weeks in Hawaii or something like that. Having had a good time, gotten a lot out of it, a good suntan, some adventures, some great food and the like, but after a while you kind of know that it's over, but still it's hard to give it up. My external reason for not going today was work related. I'll blame it on work. In fact, I think that is honestly the reason. If it hadn't been for some events that occurred early in the morning, I snuck into one meeting, and from there things just escalated. And I found a good excuse. That's what it was. It was a good excuse not to go. And then I latched onto that and I stuck with it. And then I told my daughter earlier this evening, because my family knows I'm so prone not to go. I told her, I said, I'm going tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to the desert. And she just kind of looked at me and said, yeah, right. I probably won't. Feels like a part of me is it's like growing out of something in a way. It's a strange feeling. Well, anyway, I forgot about something yesterday. I wanted to amend the subject of yesterday's video, which was catastrophizing, if I'm saying that word right. And I described that as a circumstance, something we do sometimes, some of us do at least, for certain me, making the worst out of making mountains out of molehills, right? And I describe that as how it can set the stage for panic in the mind when you imagine that a small thing like, getting a bad grade on a test could lead to, your overall life is going to be a failure because cascading events, right? One thing after another, bad test, can't get into the school you need to get into, don't get the career that you want, can't get everything else, and you're a failure. I do that in spades. And I forgot the important thing. There's a reason that catastrophizing maybe not works, but there's a reason that people like me tend to do that. And that is because if we can solve the problem of the worst case scenario, then all subordinate circumstances are solved as well. For example, discover whatever mistake I might make today that will lead to that catastrophe. Like for me, my catastrophe is being homeless. Um, and as unlikely as that is, it scares me. Not so much for my sake, but for my family's sake, and pride and all that kind of stuff, right? And here in America, it's far more likely that could happen, even to people who are doing well, as the current circumstances have revealed. I mean, it used to be having 3 months savings set aside was sufficient for a rainy day. Not so much anymore, as so many of my fellow Americans are discovering, and it's going to be a tough winter for a lot of people. And I could easily join their ranks, which fact scares me a lot. Although if it was just me, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But for my family's sake and the like, so I do worry about that kind of stuff. But anyway, so again, if we can fix something small now that would lead to the catastrophe and avoid the catastrophe, if the catastrophe is solved, then it solves all of the subordinate problems within, right? So in a way, it's a preventative measure, and it's pretty smart in a way if you can fix the worst case scenario. That's partially why I think people, well, for what I read, was why people do engage in catastrophizing. It's funny, now that I'm aware of it, I spot it right away. It still doesn't stop me from doing it. I'm pretty weak and I'm slow to learn. And silly. I'll give you an example of silly. I've got the cataract in the eye, and I know that I've got my eye doctor told me that they were going to make an appointment for me to go in and have my right eye's lens measured so that they can build a plastic replacement for the surgery. And she said this, so there's 2 steps involved. First is the appointment to go in and have the eye measured, the lens measured more accurately, and then the second step is the appointment for the surgery. And I had called, I haven't heard from anybody, and I had called the eye doctor, or Kaiser. I have insurance with Kaiser Permanente. I called them, and they said, no, Mr. Bell, it's cool. Don't call us, we'll call you. So, and I haven't heard from them for a while, and I figured, that must be because of COVID, right? So elective surgeries are kind of on hold a little bit. So I was at work today, and I got a phone call, and it was from Kaiser confirming my appointment for tomorrow with an eye doctor. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Well, I did initially. I said, really? And I asked a little bit about it, and the woman who was making the appointment, who I should have realized is not with the eye doctor necessarily. That's a person in a call center somewhere. Her job was simply to call up patients and make sure, you've got an appointment, right? Yeah, okay, you've got an appointment. She said to me that the appointment was for a routine eye examination, which I told her I don't think I need because I'm going to have eye surgery soon, so I think I'm covered. I don't need the routine eye exam because I've been just recently examined by an eye doctor, and I've got surgery coming up, so moot point. And I told her, go ahead and cancel that appointment. Yes, sir, Mr. Bell, I'll go ahead and cancel that appointment for you, bonk. And then I said, I don't remember making that appointment. She says, oh, your wife made it for you. And I'm thinking, my wife doesn't make appointments for me. She's a good wife, but she doesn't make doctor's appointments for me. Anyway, okay, I was busy for work. I hung up and off I went to work. And then it wasn't until this evening that I realized, I probably just canceled the specialist appointment to have my lens measured dummy. So tomorrow I should call Kaiser and make that appointment again. See, those little things like that, that's the kind of stuff that I can latch on to and not go to the desert. And say, I've got to make that appointment. I won't go to the desert. Which is really a shame because for the whole cycle of the year, that's what a year looks like, by the way. For the whole cycle of a year, there are just 2 windows of time, short and brief windows of time, that are, for lack of a better term, the halcyon days. Not for lack of a better term, that's the perfect term. They're the halcyon days of the desert, the time when the temperature is optimal, the days and the nights are beautifully long or short. The full moon is illuminating things beautifully as it nearly is. It's just past the full moon now. Yesterday, today, tonight, tomorrow is just that moment. Desert's in about 75 degrees. Perfect temperature for day and night. Full moon, great time for night hiking. It's just going to get colder from here. There's no reason not to go, Kurt. It'd be such a shame if I miss this opportunity, which I expect I will. But if I do miss it, I plan to make good use of the time tomorrow. I'll do the doctor's appointment, and I will also read my book. Not this book, the book I'm reading right now, Crime and Punishment, which Dostoevsky is so hard to read, yet there's just gems in there. The dialogue is just so deep and intense, and I realize now that must be how Russians in the mid-19th century spoke, right? That's how they didn't have the entertainments that we have right now. That must be how they interacted with one another. But every now and then, just the gems in there. Wow. So I'm going to read a little bit from Going Alone. Last night we finished the introduction chapter, so let's read a little bit from the cast. So the cast is the second section of the book, and I introduce the various characters within the story. Here we go, the cast. Characters, places, and concepts within my book. Let us begin with an introduction to the places and characters which play a role in my story of Going Alone. Some of these will figure notably in the book, while others are only mentioned briefly or not at all, or may only appear elsewhere, such as in my other writings, or within the many videos I have made and shared about the deep wilderness settings which I've explored in Japan and America. Each of these places and characters are important to me for their use as landmarks, symbols, or analogy to the ideas I wish to convey. And as we proceed through this book, I would like you to imagine 4 separate regions where these places and characters exist as elements of the story I want to tell. So we're going to begin here in the safe and sane of civilization. I'm in the bosom of it all right now. And we're going to begin going out further and further away until we reach the great indifference. The first region is this civilization we enjoy and share, even if you and I are separated now by vast space and time, and which is the common bond between my writing these words and your reading of them. I do not think I need to speak much of this civil place and circumstance between us, given the fact that it is our common human heritage, even if I am from California and you are from Istanbul. This shared resource of human connection is something we both know, enjoy, and may sometimes struggle to find and maintain a place within. It is our civilization and our community, and our people and our home. This is the place from which we will start. It is the setting out point for this adventure of going alone. Do not lose sight of it. Never forget what it is, or how important this grounding will be to the well-lived life, to the social life, to the good life. So that's a comment on the starting point, as I said, which is here, and a reminder to not forget about this. I believe that what happened to Chris McCandless, you remember from that story of Into the Wild, I think he might have lost track of that, or maybe he just made a mistake, right? I shouldn't smile, but he died. But it could be that as well. But I do think he might have lost track of this, the importance of this. I know that would have happened to me had I not started off with a connection already in the form of my marriage to my wife, and of course later my daughter. Well, not my marriage to my daughter, but my fatherhood, my connection and responsibility, and all the like. So don't forget that grounding. It's like having that spider web thread as you go out here into this place, something to connect you. Broken glasses. The next 3 regions of potential exploration are settings increasingly removed from civilization, places elsewhere and far away, distant and remote to our common understanding and the comfort of what we know is true. You and I are both aliens of a sort in these less explored places, especially when we go alone, and especially when we go alone where there are no roads, trails, paths, or opportunity of help, or where the connections, security, and comfort we've left behind are now truly out of reach. At the near end of this vast and mostly universal wild, there is a crossing over point and borderland which I call the edge of deep water. It is a high point between civilization and the deeper wilds, a place where we can at once see, hear, and otherwise perceive both the last vestige of our home and community in the near distance behind us, as well as the empty lands of wildness dead ahead and down below. This edge of deep water is someplace we can indeed visit, and if we are lucky, and if we go alone, then just maybe we will catch a glimpse there of the terrible thing I call the great indifference, which is defined further in this book. I recommend going no further than this edge if you are timid or scared, or not willing to risk, or to lose, or to die seemingly too soon. This is my very real and sincere warning to you. I'm not trying to seem dramatic, or to simply entertain you with dangerous sounding cautions. Death, and something possibly much worse, can really find you when you perceive the great indifference. Do not go alone to the edge of deep water if you do not really want to know. And if you do go, then go alone, and do not try to follow me. You will not find what is not there if you do. I know that sounds like word salad, kind of just gobbledygook. That's because I'm describing a nothing, and I'm describing a journey in search of nothing. And what is that? How do you do that? But leaving here and departing into a wilderness, like leaving from Siberia and going north into the Bristol Mountains until you reach about a mile up into the top of the Bristols, and you peek out over the edge into the deep, deep desert, the deep, deep, empty desert. You'll kind of then have a sense of what I'm talking about, but only if you go alone, and only if you don't follow my path. Stepping in my footsteps will ruin all the fun. Next, and beyond the edge of deep water, comes the deep water wilderness itself. This is where most of the remaining characters and places in this book are found. They are landmarks, as I said, and though they are indeed real, it does not really matter if you find them. In fact, you are better off discovering such things in a desert, in quotation marks, of your own seeking. Go somewhere else. Find something else. Take your own scary risks. Do not seek the places and things which I have found and have related here. Do not look for the great indifference just where I found it, as it will be hard to see with the echo of my past passage blinding your view and confounding your footsteps. And if you do go where I once went, and then successfully locate any of the landmarks, such as the Watcher, or the Miner, or Campo Number 1, or the Home of Faith, or even Mount Wildness itself, then I bet you'll stand there and say to yourself, why the hell did I come here? And what was Kurt talking about? This is nothing. And so it'll be, nothing to you. That is because even if you went to my places all by yourself, you didn't truly go alone. So that's 3 places so far, right? So civilization, the edge of deep water, and the deep water wilderness. So you can, of course, tolerate this civilization as best we can. You can get to the edge of deep water if you can find it. Dare you go beyond the edge into the deep water wilderness? Do you really want to discover what's not out there? I mean that. I mean that as a caution, again, as another caution, because you can't easily unsee that, and such a sight, such a scene, can actually blind us in a way. What it does is it blinds us to the beauty and the love of life, if we recognize that the universe doesn't give a damn, that it's incapable of caring, that there is no God, then what is left? So if you're not able to climb out of that hole on your own, then watch out. Nihilism ahead, right? You've been warned. The last place on my indistinct map of regions is the great indifference itself, which is both beyond and within the deep water wilderness. It is everywhere, in fact. Only we can see it better the further we get out there in the desert. It's in the mountains too, and in the sea, and where you work and where you live. Though you can't very well perceive such empty in these places due to the clutter of life and the artifacts of living. To perceive the great indifference clearly, you will need a desert, and you'll need to go far, far beyond your own edge of deep water. Give one last look back before you proceed, going down and into your own deep water, and then beyond. Do you see it out there? If so, then now what? Read on to learn how I answered this particular question in my own life, which is the substance and subject of my book and story. But first, let's meet the cast of Going Alone. So I'm describing there after leaving civilization, going to the edge of deep water, dropping down into the deep water wilderness itself, and then apprehending the great indifference. Now what? And I answer that, now what, later in the book, much later in the book. But for now, for this chapter, we're going to go by the list of all the characters in the book. Let's do that. Not them all, but just for a while. You can see there's a big heading there, right there. So it's each heading and then a description. Heading and a description. Siberia Ghost Town. Siberia is a small, deserted community halfway up the Mojave Grade between Amboy and Ludlow in the Southern California desert. There is nothing at Siberia now but ruins and ghosts, and even these have only enough remembrance to barely exist as rubble, dust, and fiction. Come here when you are ready to go further, but do not expect to find what you are looking for. It is not here. True, there were once people, lives, and dreams at this place, lives and dreams like yours and mine, though there is nothing more now to see at Siberia, though there is perhaps much yet to discover and learn, but only if you go alone, and only if you find your own Siberia. I would be there right now, had I not it's not chickening out. I'm not afraid of that place at all. It's just not a good use of time. It's not as good a use of time as what I can do if I stay behind. For example, if I stay home tomorrow, I can give love and attention to my two dogs, who Emily's very busy with her work, so she'll be studying all day, and I would be free. I could take them out for long walkies during the day. And I can also enjoy, I can finish cleaning the house, and I can also enjoy continuing my book, versus going out to the desert and looking square in the face of emptiness, which aspect I already know what that looks like, and I've already answered to some degree the challenge of that vision. BNSF Railroad. Siberia Ghost Town owes its existence and history to the Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad, the tracks of which run just north of the crumbled stone ruins of the ghost town's former train station. While nearby Route 66 has all but died, The BNSF remains a thriving concern, with mile-long freight trains passing east and west several times every hour, day and night, breaking the desert silence with thunderous locomotives heading up a long stream of heavy freight cars moving slowly through the desert. The locomotives proceed always on their way through every desert town and sighting, even the ghost towns, by issuing 4 blasts of the lead engine's deep resonant train horn, 2 long blasts followed by a short blast, and then a last long bellow as the train approaches and then passes through the lonely Siberia railway crossing. These trains are an irregular timepiece and reminder of what we have left behind in coming here. They pass us by very closely, yet remain impossibly far, especially at night, especially when there is no moon and the wind blows and we wake up and we ask ourselves why we've come to such a place at all and why we came alone. Next, Route 66. Route 66, aka the Mother Road, is now a lonesome stretch of highway running alongside the BNSF Railroad through much of the East Mojave Desert. This old highway is my access to Siberia Ghost Town, with the infrequent traffic along this road being but an echo of the millions of people who arrived in California via this famous and historic transcontinental thoroughfare. There is a marker facing east at the north side of Route 66, where a small dirt road leads off along the short drive up to Siberia. The marker is a large tire with the words West Siberia written on it in white spray paint. I sometimes wonder how many westbound travelers on Route 66 even notice the marker. Sometimes I will stand a short way off in the desert near the tire to watch folks' faces as they drive past the ghost town entrance. The only people who ever seem to notice the sign, or me standing alone in the empty desert, are the employees of the BNSF Railroad, passing by in their large white utility trucks. They notice me as I am out of place in a landscape they know. The others never see me. They do not know this place, as they are perhaps too focused on their Route 66 journey, which is simply yet another unworthy distraction. And I think I'll call it quits there tonight. We'll continue with from Siberia Bridge, which has its own chapter a little later in the book. Let's see if there's any comments as I try to straighten up my glasses. What a tragedy. Lots of comments. So Rich says, how's your night, Kurt? It's going well, thank you. Left the tunes flow. I hope your night is going well, Kurt. It is, thank you. Just joining you from my hospital bed. Oh no, you're in a hospital. I hope it's nothing too serious. Let the tunes flow. If I lived in the USA, I would be homeless and most likely dead. Canadian healthcare and disability coverage has its pluses. Yes, I can just imagine. I was really impressed with the Japanese healthcare system as well when I lived in Japan. In fact, that might be the thing that when I retire, I might go back to Japan just for that alone. Crime and Punishment is a dense book, but dense with good wisdom. It is a dense book. I'm halfway through. I'm making really good progress on it. I'm right now at the point where Raskolnikov is, he's committed the murder, but he hasn't confessed his crime. I don't know how he's going to wind up incarcerated, but we are, his sister and his mother have come to St. Petersburg, and he's just gone to the apartment with the inspector, with his friend, and he's making quite a scene of being innocent, although we know that the demon is haunting him, don't we? Bringer of Rain says, good evening, Kurt. Appreciate you posting as always. One day you should read from your other work, No More Looking Out for Number One. No kidding. You know what? That might be an interesting thing to do. That's a very heavy, I don't know if you've read it. Maybe you have, I guess maybe you have if you're commenting on it, but Bringer of Rain. I've never thought to read that. That's a heavy story. That's like a personal confession time of deep pain and and the like. I'm going to take you up on that suggestion, and I will do that. Mystic Pie says, hello, Kurt. I've been following you since I was 12. I am now 20. Thank you for being an awesome dude. I remember your videos back when you were in Japan. Well, thank you for following me for so long. You're right in that demographic. I have so many people that have contacted me in their early 20s who told me that they started following me in their teens or preteens, and you're one of them. Interesting. Thank you for. I'm always curious. I'm curious what in the world. I guess when you were in Japan, I mean, this would be pretty boring for a 12-year-old. But I mean, you probably would have stuck around. I don't know. Maybe you would have. But I guess was it Japan you were interested in? And interesting. I'm not questioning or anything your interest and commitment. I appreciate both. I'm curious. I didn't think this stuff would have any interest to a 12-year-old, but maybe the Japan stuff did. I second the statement of Bringer of Rain. Okay, very good. Well, I will do that. I will get a copy of No More Looking Out for #1, and I'll read that. Oh wow, that's a long time for someone as young as you are, Mystic Pie. That's what Let the Tunes Flow says. I've been following Kurt since Japan as well, and I'm glad I found him. Well, thank you. Yeah, Mystic Pie says. I feel like I'm eavesdropping. Reading these comments. Let the Tunes Flow says, I love how the things you talk about are exactly what I found for myself when traveling Asia. Taking a scooter myself on the east coast of Taiwan was such a valuable life experience for myself. That sounds awesome. Faduma says, hi, hello. Mystic Pie, hi. Let the Tunes Flow, hey. Casper, the anime geek, not Greek. Hey Kurt, I would like to buy your book. It's on Amazon. I've actually got a couple books up there, so they're all up on Amazon. Jaden says, and I appreciate, thank you very much for the support. Jaden, hey Jaden. Hi. Hello again, Kurt. Hello, Jaden. What happened to the Siberia trip today? I got waylaid by my work, although that may have been more or less just an excuse to prevent me from going. Let the Tunes Flow says, maybe keep the desert as a memory and the well of life experience from which you can draw on. Just because you don't go as often or at all is not like you will lose the lessons it has taught you. That's exactly right. That's one of the reasons I worked so hard at this, was I wanted to capture that. One of the principles of the good life is the season of philosophy. I call it the season of philosophy. And that basic principle is that when the muse speaks, record what she's saying, or he. It depends on the pitch and tone of the voice, I guess. For me, my muse is a she. And so I did. I worked really hard from when the muse was speaking to me to capture that. So you're right. I don't have to go back to the Tibet desert anymore. It's all been captured. Pardon me. Faduma says, you're the man, Kurt. Thank you very much. Jaden said, I started following you when I was just started my 20s. It's crazy, haha. I love watching you grow. Thanks. Yeah, been growing a little bit here. I was super into Japan. Yep, awesome. Sadly, I'm going for another surgery tomorrow, Kurt. Oh no, let the tunes flow. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that it all goes well. I will be sending you my best wishes. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Hopefully tomorrow. See, another reason not to go to the desert. If I stick around, I can get my new glasses tomorrow. I also have a shipment of books coming that I've got to send some of those off too. Thanks, Kurt. That means a lot. And I mean it most sincerely. Let the tunes flow. Good night, Jaden. Good night, everybody. I wish you all the best. Have a great upcoming weekend if I don't see you all. And remember, be safe, but not too safe. Good night, Mystic Pie. Take care.